What's up, guys? We're back again for another review, and today we've got some long-awaited MOTU Classics on deck. We've got the first of two PowerCon sets from Masters of the Universe Classics from Super 7. So we've got the mini comics pack today. This is the one that has Stratos, Trapjaw, and Prince Adam. We've got our PowerCon and Super 7 logos down here on the bottom, which is really nice to see. I'm glad we're getting more stuff from them. This is our standard kind of 3-pack box. We've seen this used before with figures like the Star Sisters, for example. The big thing, though, outside of the fact that we're getting new figures, is that we've got such a great package here. And unfortunately, I am taking these out. I mean, come on, I'm not leaving them in. But they've got this amazing artwork on the back. You can see we've got Trapjaw fighting Prince Adam and Stratos, and there's a mini comics Triclops lurking around in the background. Maybe that's a hint of something to come later. I would be perfectly okay getting a mini comics Triclops down the road. But for now, we are going to crack this set out and take a look. So here's our 3-pack out of the box, and if you've got any interest in MOTU Classics, you've probably heard the ongoing complaints with these figures ever since people started actually getting a hold of them at PowerCon, and that was a couple months back. I just now got mine because I wasn't able to attend. But for the most part, I think that those complaints for all 3 figures are founded in truth, but there is definitely some value to this set. I do think they look nice, and I don't think they look nearly as bad as people made them out to be. So let's take a look at each figure individually and see what they've got, what's different, what's new, and we'll compare them to the other figures that they correspond with in the line as well. So let's get started with Prince Adam. Alright guys, here's Adam on his own, and we're going to talk about the accessory real quick because all he comes with is what you see here. We've got a classic style power sword. You've probably got a bunch of these, just like I do, if you collect this line. So, moving on. We'll talk about articulation, and then we'll get into what makes this figure unique. Head can swivel on a ball. Be very careful with these heads. The ball joints are very, very fragile. The plastic on these figures is one of the pain points for these sets. It's very brittle, so be careful. Mine all have this kind of rubber banding effect, where if I push his head down, it wants to go right back up. So that's kind of a problem for me. Arms can go out. They rotate, swivel at the bicep, single joint at the elbow, wrist rotation, ab crunch, but mine does not like to crunch. The outfit also kind of prohibits that. Waist twist, we got splits action, legs can go all the way out, all the way back, rotation at that thigh. We've got double joints at the knees, we've got shin swivel, we've got ankle hinge, and we have a rocker, which is rather unique for this line. We don't see it too often, so that's nice. So, Prince Adam, he is obviously, you know by now, you're watching this review, he's the mini comics version, which means he has this blue and gold kind of gaudy outfit on. He looks exactly the same as the other Prince Adam from the Adam and Orko 2-pack that we got. So here's the two standing next to each other. Obviously there's a big color scheme difference, but the outfit is the same. However, this figure now has a spot for a sword on the back, whereas this figure does not. So that's a nice difference. So they're not all just straight up parts reuse figures. Heads are, of course, very different. So the head for this guy comes from this figure. So this is Ular. If you collect this line, you know who this is. This is the Savage He-Man from the mini comics. But this head is just weird. So you can tell that the heads are the same sculpt, but there is a distinct lack of paint on the body for this figure all over. And the face is where it suffers the most. So you can see that the sculpt on this guy is really brought out, but this one is just devoid of any real features because there's no paint. That's a big issue for me. I think that this just looks a lot better. I mean, here's the recent Ultimates Ular head, and it looks very similar to the original one. The problem, though, is that you can't really change them out. The plastics are so different and the color tones are so different that they don't look right. So you'd have to, I don't know, you'd have to repaint one of these heads, I suppose, or you'd have to be happy with a mismatched skin tone, and I'm not. So we'll take Ular out of the picture here. Overall, I mean, this figure isn't terrible. I think he's probably my least favorite of the bunch. But he does have issues, and there's really no disputing that. And we're going to see that throughout these figures. I do like the aesthetic of him. I like the kind of the gaudiness of this outfit. It's really goofy looking, but I like it. That said, there are, just some distinct issues with this figure. Another one that I'll point out is the leg. So this is something with this gratuitous crotch shot here that they used a crotch piece in the middle that is bigger than pretty much any other Classics figure. I think it's a really old piece. So you can see the leg joint stick out on the sides here. And it's also not the same color plastic either, which is also an issue. I believe Super 7 is fixing that going forward. So we're not going to see that again. But you kind of have to deal with it with these figures. So, yeah, again, he's probably my least favorite of the bunch. I like to have this interpretation of Adam, but at the end of the day, issues are issues. Okay, next up, we have got Mini Comics Trapjaw. And I, for one, really, really like this color scheme for this character. I think the neon yellow-green really looks cool. It stands out really well, and it's just bright as hell. So I like just the goofiness of the look, really. I mean, he's a big neon green yellow monster, basically. What's wrong with that? You can't really go wrong there. So we'll talk about this figure. There is definitely some new stuff going on here, some differences between the original Trapjaw, which we'll look at. But for the most part, you're going to see the same kind of quality issues here as with Adam. I've got the rubber banding issue with the head, very brittle. We do have the rotating ankles, which is nice. We do have, but we still have a big crotch piece, and you can see those ball joints coming out. And again, on him, the plastic is different color in that joint as well, in the disc. So that's kind of a problem. I can live with it, but it's still worth noting. Big for me, though, is that this guy has an entirely different head. This is not the same head that we got with the original Trapjaw. However, one caveat to that is he has no articulated jaw, so nothing moves on the head. So if that's a big problem for you, you kind of have to deal with it. I prefer the head on the original Trapjaw because of just how nasty the inside of that mouth looks. I think it's awesome. But I do like this sculpt. I think it fits the overall tone of the figure. We do have multiple accessories for this guy. You got to watch out with these pegs, because we have 3, just like you might expect. We've got the laser gun, we've got the claw, and we've got the hook. Now, what's a problem? Well, maybe not a problem, but something to note. I'm going to put the hook on this time. We've got a different peg system, so you can't swap out parts from this Trapjaw into, say, the original Trapjaw or Roboto. They have a different peg system. They're not the same size, and it's mostly a length issue. They're longer on this new Trapjaw than they are on the original. So with that in mind, let's take a look at them side by side. You can obviously see right away there's a huge difference, just not necessarily in color. So the heads are different. The belt is different. The lower body is entirely different. He does not use the Trapjaw legs. He uses standard legs. And then he doesn't have the same mechanical arm on the left. It makes him, among these 3, definitely the most different from his original figure. Is it a better or worse situation? I don't know. I'm not sure which one I like better, honestly. I do like this figure, though. He still does have the issues that the others do. But at the same time, I don't really mind them so much on Trapjaw as I did on, say, Prince Adam, because I like this head so much that it kind of makes up for some of the other problems. This is still a really, really solid figure for being so old, but it's nice to have a new interpretation of Trapjaw that is faithful to the mini comics. And ultimately, I don't really have as many problems with this guy as I do the others. All right, here is the final figure. We have got Mini Comics Stratos here, and there's some big differences between this figure and the others. There's one additional QC problem with this guy, which is unfortunate, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty decent figure. He's not great, he's not bad, but he's decent, and he's got some nice updates and changes to make him a little bit more unique from the others. So we'll bring in the other 2 figures here in just a second, but I wanted to talk about some of the differences between this figure and the others, because he does have a few. We've obviously got this necklace here. We have got this additional belt piece on his waist. Let me move the staff out of the way. And then we've got the furry bootless feet, which we didn't have on the other 2 figures. And of course, he has an actual gripping hand this time around, so he can hold on to his staff. Now, the original Strati, they didn't come with any weaponry, so they didn't have the need for a gripping hand. it's kind of a problem because they introduced 2 staffs in the line later for Stratos. So they went ahead and gave him the Staff of Avion and a gripping hand, and this is the same hand that Beastman has. It's got the little brass knuckle thing on there. And this is a different paint scheme for this staff, so we'll see the 2 in just a second. And then, of course, another big difference is that he does not have the jetpack. Okay, so here are the 3 Stratos figures all together, and you can see that there are definitely some differences amongst all of them. These 2, I don't even remember which one is which anymore. I think this is the original one and this is the Toys R Us one, so they had swapped paint schemes. They have the jetpack, they have boot feet, and they don't have gripping hands. So this guy is holding the staff that comes with the Icer figure. This guy is holding the staff that comes with the Goatman figure. Both of them are meant for Stratos. They're just different interpretations of the staff. This guy obviously comes with this staff. The interesting thing here is that this staff has a handle on it. You can see this Stratos holding the staff with this little handle. It's meant to be used with this non-gripping hand. But this guy comes with the staff that's meant for the non-gripping hand, yet they included a gripping hand. So you don't actually need this little piece on this staff anymore, but you can't really do anything about it. So that's the differences. I mean, the paint scheme and then the lack of a jetpack, the additional little pieces of jewelry, accessories on them. But the big thing and the big problem is the material with which they used for the wings. So it's a very floppy and flimsy rubbery plastic, whereas the originals are very rigid. They don't really lose their shape over time. You can deform them if they're maybe in a bin or something and getting compressed. But these just sort of sag. So what I'm going to end up doing is probably positioning them and put a little drop of glue on the wings so that they won't fall over, because eventually they're just going to curl in on themselves and then they'll be ruined. So you might have to heat form them or something. But I like the look of this guy. I think I might switch up the accessories maybe. I might give him this one for some reason. I like this one better. So maybe the Stratos that deserves a weapon can get the cooler one for me. But this is definitely a big problem. But for the most part, I don't have any other real issues with this figure, of course, outside of the other issues that they all share. Alright, so overall, there are some definite missteps with this set. A lot of QC issues, brittle plastic, really hard to move joints, heads that are very precariously set upon those ball joints. And each figure kind of has their own little thing. Prince Adam has that wonky head. Stratos has the gummy wings. Trapjaw is honestly the better of the 3, I believe, at least from my perspective. It still has the issues that the other ones have, though. So I'm not upset that I got this, but at the end of the day, this is a very expensive set that does have a lot of QC issues. Hopefully, as we have come to learn from Super 7, they are going to take this information and make the line better. And I really have faith that they are going to do that, because they seem like they are on the ball and they are willing to make this line work. It's just a shame that we had to find out after the fact that there were going to be problems in such an expensive set. So that is going to do it for this look at the PowerCon exclusive mini comics Masters of the Universe Classics figures from Super 7. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.